Hello, everybody. My name is Mark Williams. I'm the chair of the, can I have the house lights, please? The chair of the Literary Media and Communications Department at Ellington. So I wanted to do a couple of things before I introduce our closing talk by Mamouna Youssef. First off, this event all happened because we have one parent named Randy Riley in our formidable parent group that broached the idea of, well, what about if we got a license to do a TED event? And so because we're in a public room, I couldn't leave the room because my impulse is to say, let me just go get out of here. What are you talking about? But lo and behold, anyway, Randy, are you here? So I wanted to thank Randy because this was her idea to get the TED license and to do this event. And it is beyond, in terms of a measure of success, it's beyond my own expectations. So I wanted to thank you because this is her idea. So I wanted to talk for a few minutes about sorry no, but I really, because her efforts were extraordinary. So in closing, to wrap this up, I was trying to get my head around what to say, and I have no sense of direction. And that's a literal statement. You know how the convention of men is that men don't ask for directions? Not this one. Because I get lost all the time, and it really is, and I'm sharing pain with you just like the young people did. It's so bad that my own children will be in the back of the car, and they'll say, Papi, are you sure this is the way? And this is coming from my 8-year-old. And I get lost driving home sometimes. And it's not something I can control. It's just, this is what it is. And my children also, for Christmas, using their allowance money, they bought me a GPS. And it sits on the counter just sort of looking at me. And so finally, one day, I sort of plugged it in and said, let me try this thing. And here's my problem with the GPS. Some chick is telling me to make a right turn here. And then another moment is your destination is 12 minutes ahead or it's 14 minutes ahead. And so I see its logic, the GPS. I still don't use it. I don't have it mounted the way my neighbors do. They mount it. It's perfectly mounted on the dash, and it's at an angle and some. Our American educational system, to me, is analogous to the GPS. Here's why. What you have seen today are artists in sort of multiple forms and multiple platforms saying multiple things. The problematic, and I've been in education for 25 years, and the problematic in education for me is that it's analogous to the GPS because it provides you, it tells you where to turn, right or left. It tells you how much time you need to get to your destination. That's almost antithetical to what you have seen here today, because everything in here today lives inside something that is not the GPS. It does not have the answers. It does not have the direction. Chevy Chase, who is a fool, has this series of movies. You know what I'm talking about, the national, the vacation movies? And so there's one scene where he takes his family in that station wagon, you know what I'm talking about? And so they take the wrong exit, and they land, the whole family, they're white, and they land in the hood. And so the families, and you know, oh my God, it's dark, and you know, and so there's a group of young African American men, they pull up and ask for directions. And so as they're getting the directions, in just a wonderfully racist moment, and I like my racism this way, by the way, it's straight to the head. But they completely strip the car. So they take the tires, they take the door, and you know, and the family's just sort of watching it, you know. And then I think about, you know, I live in Fairfax, Virginia, and when I moved from New Jersey, I had all my things in the back of this Cutlass. And I literally was moving into the Fairfax city limits, and the sirens went off, and I got pulled over. It was like, well, so I see those as two sides of the same coin. Here's the problem with the GPS, and here's the problem with Google Maps and Google, all of it, is that they tell you how to get there, but they don't tell you what's there. They don't tell you about the liquor store over here, or that there may be a crack house over here, or the NRA sits right over there, right? Or the myriad of things that are in the path to getting to where you go. I cite Chevy Chase and National Family Vacation, whatever it's called, not because I am a fan per se, but to me it's very analogous to Miss Celia Riley, what she just did with her TED Talk. Because what she just did, which was remarkable in many ways, in terms of courage, but she also got lost. And she got lost and it paralyzed her. And when students get lost, they get paralyzed. We routinely tell students that, you know what, you have to live in chaos. And you have to live in chaos in a way that it's not chaos, but this is the way we roll, right? And what the GPS gives you is an answer. The reason that's antithetical to the way we train writers and why we need writers is that the writer, the artist, has to live in questions. There are no answers. So therefore, to live in a question is almost antithetical to the academic construct, which says your gauge of intelligence corresponds to how many answers you get right on a test. And that tells you you have an A and that you're well on the way to a future. The way we roll is that the student has the question, which leads to another question, which leads to another question. And the beauty of it is I have to sit there and to tell the student, hey, Mr. Williams, what's the answer? I don't know. You got to explore that. You got to get lost in order to get found. And as trite as that may sound, that's exactly what this is today, is that you have young people that sort of live in the notion of, I don't know the direction. I don't have the GPS. And I know I'm going to get lost, but I got to get found within that. And I got to see what's in the path of getting to where I need to go. First thing. The second thing is innovation. When we first took on this event, this TEDx event, the question is, well, how does innovation pertain to what we're doing, right? Because, you don't have physicists or chemists or, people are not talking about rocket science or whatever. Here's where the innovation is. The writer James Baldwin says is that there really are only 2 or 3 human stories: love, loss of love, and one more, which I'll tell the students when they graduate. Right? So, if in fact we buy the notion for this afternoon, right? Well, here's the thing: how can you possibly be original if there are only 2 or 3 human stories? I would argue that the most innovative thing we can find are people. Our artists, our writers, our filmmakers, actors, etc., that find a way to take these stories, 1 or 2 or maybe 3 of them, and make them original, make them new, make them something that takes you and says, I recognize that. And because it is new and is original and is innovative. And that, in my estimation, is what TEDx, what the branding is. So in my estimation, what these young people have done lives squarely inside that. I'd like to introduce a former student, speaking of innovators. Mamouna Yousaf is a Grammy-winning, Grammy nominated, right. The Grammy-winning will come later. But she's an embodiment of that innovation. She takes language. The quick story I'll tell about Mamouna, which she hates, but she was a finalist for American Idol. She won Baltimore Idol, then she went to L.A. And essentially what they told her is that this stuff you're saying, we can't deal with this. It's just too much, right? Because they wanted a cookie cutter, right? And no slight on American Idol, sort of, is that the cookie cutter is what brings to the top 5 and to the sums. Whereas this young woman said no, and she stuck to the notion that I'm going to tell story the way I hear it. And you're going to hear it whether you choose to or not. Mamouna Yousaf.